All right, guys, today we're going to talk about how you can increase your forehand smash factor. Now, if you don't know what smash factor means, you won't be the only one. I don't think it's ever been used when it comes to tennis. It's actually a golf term. Now, you don't need to understand golf, you don't need to like it. I won't be boring you with loads of golf details. But when it comes to golf, they use smash factor to calculate the efficiency of your strike. This is something I think if we start to understand it, if we start to think about it, can help you with your efficiency of all your strokes. Today we're going to talk about the forehand. So basically, smash factor is taking your club head speed, you could think about that as racket speed, and dividing that by the ball speed. With a driver, maximum efficiency will be 1.5. I have no idea what that would be when you're hitting a tennis ball, but again, I just want you to think about this concept. When I've been on court with great players throughout the years, that's something that's always stood out to me, is how that ball is hit so clean and just pops off the racket. And what I'm suggesting today is we focus on not necessarily swinging really quick, but making sure that when we hit the tennis ball, when we strike it, that thing pops off the racket. We get maximum efficiency of the strike. Now, I'm curious to know how many players out there, and you can leave this in the comment section below, how many of you, when you hit the tennis ball, have the racket shift in your hand? Because for me, I see that a lot with my video analysis clients, with my on-court clients. I see that when they hit the tennis ball, there's often this slide of the racket in the hand, and they'll put it down to not having a new grip or, a bit sweaty or a bit of sunscreen. But we don't want the racket to be moving when you strike the ball off center. Now, obviously, hitting the ball at the middle of the racket, let's just put it out there, that's the most obvious and easiest way for you to get efficiency of strike. Same with golf. If you're hitting the ball in the middle, smash factor is going to be great. If you're hitting off the toe, the heel, you're not going to get it. So we need to focus on hitting the ball out of the middle of the racket. And you need to be aware of where it's hitting on the racket head. Again, big part of golf, I said I wasn't going to go on about golf, but here we are. When you hit it off different parts of the club, the better players know exactly where that ball is hit, exactly where it's come off the club face. You need to do that on the racket. Try to recognize where on the racket face you are hitting the ball, or the frame. And obviously focus on striking that ball right out the middle. But again, at the same time, when we're a little bit off center, we don't want the racket to be flipping. We don't want to have our hand lose grip of the racket, because that's really going to affect the quality of your strike. You'll have seen those pictures, those images of Roger Federer in this position with the racket so closed after he struck the ball. That is not good. That is not what we want to happen. I don't think it's what Federer would have wanted. There's also videos out there where he hits the ball and the racket flips, and again, we've got this racket losing stability. I saw a YouTube video once where someone was saying how great that was, because I guess he's so loose with the hit that when he hits it off center, he gets this, but probably when he hits it out the middle, it's an unbelievable shot. Maybe that's the case for him. Maybe he used to hit the ball so clean and he could be so loose that these shots here are just, some of the greatest forehands ever hit, and he sacrifices that for when the ball hits the bottom of the racket, he no longer has stability. Right? Maybe that's a trade-off that he's willing to have. But for us, I want us, when the ball hits the bottom of the racket or wherever, for the racket to stay relatively stable, because we probably don't hit it out of the middle as often as someone like Federer. While we're on this subject, breaking down Federer's forehand, I think towards the end of his career, his forehand wasn't as good. I think what made his forehand great is he was able to get his lower body being stable and actually working the opposite direction and having the top half accelerate and really getting it away from his body. That gave him a lot of power. But sometimes the things you do well, for everyone, whatever you do well, sometimes you do it a little bit too much. You start to use that more and more and more to where it becomes a bit of a weakness. And I think towards the end of his career, he was really throwing it out there. Body was moving this way, working as a counterbalance. He was a little overstretched. And when you're overstretched, and this is for everyone watching this, when you're overstretched and that arm is in a place where there's not a lot of stability, that's when you get those hits that aren't very stable. So when you're hitting your forehands, try to be in a position where you feel like you are stable. If you start overstretching, sounds good, but if you can't control the racket face, you're gonna lose that efficiency. So I'm gonna show you how I hold the racket. I have an Eastern grip, not recommending that everyone just copies what I'm doing, but how I hold it allows me to have stability. My racket's not shifting around in my hand too much. Now, my hand's behind the racket, my knuckle is right behind the racket on this big flat bevel here. I think that's number 2. So I feel like I'm pretty stable and solid. My hand is behind the shot. If we flip this side, you can see that this same bevel here is pushed against the heel of my hand. So I'm pretty stable there, and it feels like it's in a very snug, tight position. By the way, don't buy Gamma grips, they are rubbish. Now, what's interesting about the grip is if you have a firm grip and you feel like it's really snug there, it's not gonna move too much, you can actually relax a little bit more. If you don't have a good grip and you feel like it's always gonna slide about, you end up gripping on tighter to prevent these things from happening where the racket is sliding in your hand. So I prefer to have a very firm grip of the racket, feel like it's not going anywhere, and then I can relax knowing that any off-center hits aren't going to completely destroy my grip. If you look at Tom's forehand here, and someone I've been practicing with a little bit, plays number 1 for Great Britain, so I lose every time. But watching his forehand, so solid. He's generating his power with a big take back, gathering momentum, and making sure when he comes into that strike, he's very strong and stable. He's getting that power because he's gathering momentum, and all of that energy is going into the strike. Nothing is lost. Smash factor, 100%. If you got something out of that, I recommend checking out this video and playlist right here. Also, consider signing up for my video analysis at tpatennis.com.